Yo, what up? It's Darius and welcome back to the SQL Server Series. In our last video, we talked about how to use the outer join clause, and we talked about how to retrieve data from tables under a different database while joining multiple tables together. So in this video, we're going to learn how to use another type of join that is known as the cross join. Then we are going to step into working with the union clause. These are both clauses that are designed to access data from multiple tables and combine them into a single result set. So, getting started with the cross join. The cross join will join each row from the first table and each row from the second table. Now this is different from the outer joins, because the outer joins only join rows from the left or right table, and the inner join is only going to join rows where the primary and the foreign key data match. But instead, the cross join will join all rows from each table, and it will be included in a single result set. Now, there are two different types of syntaxes you can use when coding the cross join clause. The first syntax uses the actual cross join words within the join, and the second syntax uses a comma separator between the two tables. So let's take a look at it and see how it looks. So the first query I want to write, I want to do a select all from departments. Oops, I think that is on my examples database. And then I'm going to do the cross join. This is the first syntax. This is called the explicit syntax, specifying it. And I'm going to cross join my employees table. And then I'm going to order by my departments, that department number. And here's our first cross join. And now let's take a look at the next syntax. And this is called the implicit syntax. So this time I'm going to do the same query. I'm going to do a select all from my departments table, which is under my examples database. And instead of saying cross join examples.dbo.employees, I'm just going to use the comma separator, and then I'm going to cross join in my employees table. And then I'm going to order by my department number from my departments table. And you see, if we run this query, we get the same exact result set. So our explicit syntax here, specifying cross join for the employees table, and the implicit syntax here, by instead of saying cross join, just using a comma separator between the table here. And now you see we have a result set here that includes data from both the first and the second table using a cross join clause. When accessing columns from either one of these tables, there's no need to specify the name of the table using the dot separator and then the column name. Because you cross join these two tables together, you have joined the data from both tables. You can then just go ahead and pull some columns out. So let's say I want to pull out my department name. Well, I'll just get my department name from the departments table, and then using the comma separator, I'll get the employee ID from the employees table, and then I'll get my last name, and then I'll run this query. And you see I took 3 columns from both these tables, and I did not have to specify the table name using the dot separator and then the column name. I was able to just go straight to the columns because we used a cross join here, and it wasn't an inner or an outer join. Now let's talk about how to use the union clause. A union can combine data from 2 or more tables. Instead of combining columns like the inner, outer, and cross joins, it will combine rows from 2 or more result sets instead. But there are some rules to using the union clause. For one, each result set must return the same number of columns, and the corresponding columns in each result set must have compatible data types. Now, I know we didn't talk very much about data types yet, but we did cover the fact that some columns are designed to only store numbers, and some are only designed to store character data, meaning those columns have different data types. So I'm just going to start by selecting all from my active invoices table. and then I'm going to say where my invoice date is greater than or equal to, let's see, February 1st, 2016. And then I'm going to step up here and I'm going to change it up my columns a little bit here because we're gonna use the union clause here. We're going to see how the union clause works. So I'm going to select active, and then I'm going to name that string data source, and then I'm going to get the invoice number from this column. I'm sorry, from this table, and then I'm going to get the invoice date from this table, and then I'm going to get my invoice total. And then we're going to use the union clause, and I'll put a space here. We're going to use the union clause, and then this time I'm going to select all from, and I'm going to get my examples.dbo.paid invoices table, and then I'm going to say where invoice date is greater than or equal to February 1st, 2016. And then I'm going to come up here and I'm going to pull out some string data here. I'm going to say paid, and then I want paid to be stored under source. And then I'm going to get my invoice number and my invoice date and my invoice total also. I see some similarities here between the two. Now, our union clause here will only work if each result set returns the same number of columns and the corresponding columns in each result set have the same data type. So you see here our first column is active. This is string data. We're displaying that as source. And we have paid, which is also the same data type as string, and we're displaying that in source. That's our first column. Our second one is the invoice number from both of these tables, and the invoice date, the invoice total. So we have here the same number of columns, and each one of these columns are the same data type. So to close this query out, I'm going to order by invoice total. Let's order by invoice total, and let's set that in the descending order. Now, when using the union clause, if you want to add an order by clause at the end of your query here, it has to come after the last select statement, which we have here. And this clause also must refer to at least one of the column names that is assigned in the first select clause. So you see here we have it coming after the last select statement, and the invoice total is from the invoice total column in our first select clause. So we're just going to go ahead and run this query now, and you see we have a successful union join here. We can't call it a join, it's more of just a union that is happening here between the two tables, and we have the same number of columns, which is the source, the invoice number, invoice date, and invoice total from both tables. And you see we have the string data that we printed out as active from this table and paid from this table. Those have been union together, so we see paid and active. And this is how you use the union clause. You can also use the union clause to combine information from the same table. It doesn't always have to be a different table. So if I were to change this to active invoices and then run the query again, you see here I've got the same table union together with a different source of information. But in this case, you know, it depends on the type of data that you're trying to retrieve here, because you see now all I've done was create duplicate data in a result set from two of the same table. So it depends on what you're trying to do, but it is capable of happening. So that is all for this video. In the next video, we're going to begin learning how to code summary queries. So thank you for watching. If you're interested in the next video, head over to database-tutorials.com. Please don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel. Hit the like button on this video if you enjoy it, and see you next time.